Hello viewers, welcome to our lecture series on Indian ethos in management, and today we are going to extend our discussion on the topic of corporate rhymes, which is going to be part 2 of our discussion on recognizing the right brain as a seat of creativity, the way we are using right hemisphere of our brain, and it is going to be a seat of creativity, and what it does, what is wisdom equation, and what has been the Indian tradition of sharing insights through poetic verses and experiential learning is coming from those poetic verses. That is what is our point of discussion today. And with this as an agenda of today's discussion, as I told you that during ancient times management was an art, but during modern times it became a science. And now with the passage of time we are calling it as a discipline. It has become a discipline with its own distinct body of knowledge, jargons and technical terms. And since it is a discipline, it is both an art and science, and it is a combination of both, you can say, because it is using both the sides of brain, left as well as right. And in its evolution as a subject, if we see, it was actually dominated by rational analytic approaches only. And people used to think that if I am talking about the management, I need to be rational, I need to be logical into my approach, into my behavior, and they were not thinking about the creativity, how to include or incorporate creativity into it. And here is a solution to that problem, that how to incorporate the right brain as a seat of creativity into our discipline, which is called management. So I gave you a brief introduction about the wisdom equation, where we combine reason with intuition, reasoning with the intuition, and that is called the real wisdom. Because you can have knowledge, but in order to ensure the wisdom, intuitive capabilities or intuitive knowledge is very much important, to which we call as the sixth sense in Western scenario. Wisdom managers and wisdom leaders, they are actually using both the approaches. They are sticking to the root of reason and also to the root of intuition. So they are actually, in essence, they are using both the sides of their brain while making their decisions, while implementing their decisions in order to solve a problem. So wisdom equation have been discussed, and the poetic verses, the way it is being used, and I gave you the name of certain writers, authors like Kalidas, Kabir Das, Kanak Das and Goswami Tulsidas, who expressed their insights through poetic verses, and they are very much popular even today when it comes to discussion. Like suppose if I have to recall Goswami Tulsidas, he says in one of in Damcharitmanas that bhay bin hoi na preeti. Without fear there is no affection, there is no love. So there has to be a fear when you are maintaining a relationship of love and affection with someone. So in those verses, these authors, they have actually given poetic verses to express their concern, their insight about a specific situation. Until date, they are as relevant as they were at that point of time. And that is why we talk about the contribution or incorporating these studies into the present body of knowledge. So researchers nowadays, they had also started testing those poetic approaches to teaching management concepts and ideas. That can we make use of those poetic verses into the teachings and teaching learning process of management concepts and ideas. And they have found it really very useful for right brain development and creativity development among the management students and corporate executives. So there are number of authors, but I could find certain significant contributions. Like one of the contribution is given by Subhash Sharma. He has used poems which are available in published form in 3 different books. Like one is Creation from Shunya, Shunya, that is zero, and it was given published in 1993, Creation from Shunya. Second one is Quantum Rope, which talks about science, mysticism and management, and it was published in 1999. And the third one is Arrows of Time, from the black holes to the nirvana point, and it was published in 2001. So these 3 books I could find from the Indian body of knowledge on the subject, and they have actually, here the author have contributed in these 3 different books the different poetic verses which are relevant for the management discipline. management as a discipline. And in order to test this concept, the author has eloquently conducted a pilot study where learners may make their own choice of a poem or song or a poetic verse from the given books, and they have to undertake a self reflection around the chosen poem, and they can analyze it from the viewpoint of management concepts and management lessons, and they are supposed to give a write up on that, that after going through those poetic verses you have to undertake a self reflection, that what you could get out of it in order to from the viewpoint of management concepts in order to solve a given problem. And whatever management lessons you have got from there, you have to write a short theme paper on that. It was a pilot study, and testing was initially undertaken at one of the Indian institution over several years, and after that they found that documentation of the same was also made available to researchers in the form of compilation of students' experiential learning, because that is the only way we understand that suppose if one student is saying that I could have this experience out of this poetic verses, that cannot be generalized. But when you are conducting a pilot study in an institution where a significant number of students are undergoing those processes, then of course that experiential learning can be generalized. And this approach had also been tested in management development programs at several other institutes of management, where the author had contributed in terms of MDP and disseminated the knowledge on these poetic verses. So, let me tell you about the creation from Shunya, what exactly we mean by it, what exactly the author wants to explain into this. So, it was published long back in 1993. So, you can imagine that from the decade of 90s itself, we started talking about Indian ethos in management. So, it actually it is a testimony to the fact that a significant amount of literature, significant quantum of literature on the subject is already available. So, creation from Shunya is basically a metaphor for entrepreneurship and institution building. It is telling us that how to include, how to incorporate innovation and creativity when you start from scratch. Shunya or zero means there is nothing in the background. We have no business background, we have no past experience, but we start from the scratch, and then we are including and incorporating innovation and creativity into our processes. And the title poem in this book actually describes the process of institution creation, and it says that how to develop institutions, how to create an institution using the metaphor of a small little temple which becomes a grand beautiful structure. So, you are starting your journey with a small little temple and reach to a destination which becomes grand beautiful structure. So, from a very modest background, from a zero background to the ultimate development where you are heading towards, it is actually a journey, and it is an outcome of inclusion of innovation and creativity. We all understand that unless we innovate, we cannot flourish, and that is why it is very well said, innovate or perish. So, you have two ways, either you find the path of, either you adopt the path of innovation, or be ready for getting that end of your business, because you will definitely perish, because nobody is going to take your product, your company, if you are not innovative enough. If there is lack of creativity, then of course nobody is going to adopt, because with the passage of time, what happens, you and your company, your product becomes redundant, because you are not maintaining pace with the changes which are taking place. You are not maintaining the pace with the changes in technology, with the change in demand, with the change in the time conditions, and of course the expectations of customers at large. So, creation from Shunya basically says that all entrepreneurship starts with an initial thrust which later becomes a major force. So, every small idea, every grand force which you are looking today is basically it has started from a very small idea. So, initial thrust is very small, but later it becomes a major force, and this specific book has 30 poems or poetic verses which can be used in different ways if you wish to invoke creativity and to you wish to teach management ideas to your management learners. So, due to paucity of time, I am not reading those poetic verses here. I am just giving you an example that one of the author in this field, one of the prominent author in this field has contributed in the name of creation from Shunya, starting from scratch in 1993, and the book eloquently and very interestingly explains the management lessons by the way of poetic ideas. Few selected lines I would like to place before you, that if you have to run the race, if you really wish to run the race, run it for human race. So, they are basically in a sarcastic manner, they are indicating towards denial of rat race, that you should not go to the cutthroat competition, we should believe into the cooperation, not competition. So, we should run it for the human race, do not behave like a rat where you are not thinking about the sustainability, you are not thinking about the development which is sustainable, you are simply living in the present and trying to make some good amount of profit in today's time without looking at the future. So, we have to understand that when you get a chance to become a leader, you have to be very vigilant, you have to be very alert, otherwise you will become a matter of ridicule, people may ridicule you. So, in order to ensure that my acts, my decisions, my activities are not being ridiculed, I need to understand that I have to run it for the human race, not for the rat race. And nowadays we believe into the charismatic leaders, we believe into the leaders who are exercising management by walking around. They are supposed to be with their employees. So, we cannot rest with the idea of rat race, we cannot rest with the idea of cutthroat competition only. We have to believe into the cooperation, we have to believe into the coordination, because sustainability is the future. Without sustainability, you cannot run the show. Now, again there is another sarcasm for the term modern in this book I could find, and I thought that I should present before you, where it says that if we consider it to be an acronym, modern means it is a means of destroying and eliminating real nature. So, are we going to compromise, destroy and eliminate the real nature in the name of modernity or in the name of so called modernity? Of course not. We are not supposed to. So, we should stick to the basic roots. It actually indicates that we should not forget our basics, our basic roots from where we started. No matter how grand our journey is, but what matters is the root from where we are actually developing, from where we have developed. So, in the name of modernity, we should not make it a means for destroying and eliminating real nature. We should consider modernity as an inclusion in the name of creativity and innovation. Nobody is stopping us from including creativity and innovation into our process. But what about destroying and eliminating the real nature? So, the real nature of business should not change, no matter what kind of change, what kind of modernity you are going to adopt and adapt. So, we have to converge with those changes according to your country, according to your national requirement. So, we have to understand that those small ideas, those small poetic verses, they are so powerful that still they are very much relevant, and when we are speaking to our colleagues, when we are speaking to our subordinates, at times we are reminded of those ideas, those poetic verses, and they are so powerful, so meaningful, that by simply reiterating those 2-3 lines, your employees, your colleagues, your subordinates, they understand that what exactly you want to communicate. The next book is on quantum rope, which is science, which talks about science, mysticism and management. And quantum rope here is a metaphor for an underlying connectivity between the West and the East. So, here we are talking about quantum rope, means it is going to connect, to ensure a connect between the East and West, which was actually by mistake it was actually a point of debate, that whether Eastern ideas are good or Western thoughts are best. Of course, we should not compare them. We should try to take best out of them, because we believe into a culture of Anu Bhadra Krito Yantu Vishwata. Let noble thought come to us from all the dimensions. So, what is the point of challenging a specific idea? If something good is there in the West, what is the problem in accepting it? If something better is there in the middle, why not we accept it? And whatever we have in the East, we should take it with pride, we should accept it with the pride, we should actually acknowledge it with pride and try to spread the goodness of it to the entire world. So, in quantum rope, if I have to define what exactly the word quantum stands for and rope stands for, quantum here refers to quantum physics and rope refers to Shankara's well known metaphor of snake or rope. So, we talk about the considering this rope as a snake or rope, and quantum rope contains 33 scientific verses which are also called as management verses, and in this specific book on quantum rope, author has used them as assignment to students and executives, and their learning experiences are available for researchers in the form of assignment on experiential learning. Imagine that you are a person on person of executive management course, and you are being given an assignment to have a reflection of those ideas, those scientific verses, and whatever experience you have to draft it, you have to write it, and they are available to the researchers in the form of assignments on experiential learning. So, how good it is, we are not denying to the scientific ideas, we believe into the scientific management as well. But scientific mysticism and management, they need to be integrated. Whatever is there into our traditional scriptures, why not we accept it, why not we acknowledge it, why not we spread it with all sense of pride and sense of affection or respect towards those ideas. The next book, which is the last one, that is Arrows of Time, from the black holes to the nirvana point, and this book came in 2001, and in this the importance of time and the timing factor has been highlighted. We all understand that nowadays we talk about time management as one of the important concern of 21st century leaders, where they talk about managing time. We have just in time technology, JIT. So, importance of time and timing factor, it has been highlighted in the field of management by the way of, by the concept of time management, we all know. And there we actually try to maintain a we need to strike a balance between the return on time spent and return on time used. So, how much time I have spent and how much time out of the time spent by me is being used or deployed into the business processes. So, in a way we are trying to find the idle time. So, in nutshell, you can say that we are trying to find the idle time, that for how much time or for how much duration the workforce was actually not on work, and the time was actually idle, and they could not make use of the time for the desired purposes. And the metaphor of arrows of time here points our attention towards impact of time on our routine decision making processes, that whenever I am going for the day to day decision making processes, what is the impact of time on that. And in arrows of time, we actually find scientific arrow of time, which offers us the scientific basis of the arrow of time. And in social arrow of time, it points towards the implications of time in our day to day existence, that from our society, whatever we are getting, whether we are able to contribute in the same manner or not. We also find religious and spiritual arrows of time. So, in arrows of time, we have different arrows. Some of them belong to social arrows, some of them belong to religious and spiritual arrows of time. And when I talk about religious arrows of time, it is rooted in religious and spiritual aspect of time and their significance. So, in nutshell, what it says that we have to actually reach to a level of what we call as the point of nirvana point. We call that we should not think of those black holes where we were actually lost into a time management procedure. We were completing on time, but what about the social arrow of time? What about the religious arrow of time? What about the scientific arrow of time? So, you can be good into the time management in terms of completing a process on desired time, but when it comes to the scientific arrow of time, when it comes to the religious arrow of time, when it comes to social arrow of time, whether whatever time management you have done, what implications your employees are witnessing into their day to day existence. You forced your employee to finish a task in a given time, but what about the accidents which they are facing in completing those tasks in the given or prescribed time limits. So, in this way beautifully these poetic verses, they are included and experimented and implemented in the classrooms, in the industrial setups, by or in amid these managers who are actually going to take lead in managing business affairs. So, this was actually this is what I wanted to present before you, which came from the new mantras in corporate corridors, from ancient roots to global roots by Subhash Sharma. And in this book, author has given different ideas about Indian ethos in management. So, I duly acknowledge, we duly acknowledge their contribution to this domain or this subject of Indian ethos in management. And now moving ahead, we have to at times we have to discuss about the management Subhashitani. Now, when I am using this word Subhashitani, it is my duty to first explain what does this word mean. This Subhashitani or Subhasitas, in some states it is being called as Subhashitas, or in north if we look, we call it Subhashitani. It refers to Sanskrit shlokas, that it is basically a compilation of shlokas in Sanskrit language, which offers few words or lines, and that those lines are actually like guidelines for human conduct and behavior. So, those shlokas, they have basically a combination of different guidelines. So, those lines are so powerful that when you read them, you find lot of meaningful ideas, meaningful guidelines from there, and that is why we call it management Subhashitani. So, it refers to Sanskrit shlokas where you deal with not only the practical aspect of life, but also the philosophical perspective of human existence. So, imagine, my dear learners, when we have to combine the practical aspect of life with philosophical perspective of human existence. So, it is going to be such a wonderful exercise where we are using those shlokas for the betterment of human life, not only in the corporate setup, but also at national level. So, if I have to define the expression Subhashitas, it is also extended to received wisdom, and it is something which we have inherited from our forefathers, which we have inherited from our rishis, from our gurus, and that is contained in catchphrases not only in the Sanskrit language, but also in other languages. It is being translated because of its power and magnitude. It is being translated, or it has been translated in multiple languages. And if I have to tell you about the point of origin, this notion is also extended to the field of management in general and corporate management in particular. And the idea of management Subhashitani, seeking the linkages between the Indian wisdom, ancient and modern, with the management theories and concepts, is basically the ultimate thing which we can get from management Subhashitani. So, I will be discussing with you in detail about those shlokas in the next lecture of mine. I hope you must have enjoyed this segment of my lectures on Indian ethos in management. Thank you so much.